I'm known for making anything go viral. This is because I have over 7 million subscribers and have gotten over 2 billion views in the last 2 years. I was genuinely creating because that was my passion. And I somehow blew up.
Right.
I use my phone and I use it intentionally because it's it has that relatable quality. I got to 1 million subscribers completely by myself without a team, without ever hiring anyone.
Yeah.
So it's very possible. Somehow, when I put 100% of my focus into YouTube, that's when the videos started doing worse.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the YouTube Success Podcast. I've got a pretty special episode here because I have Jenny Hoyos from America, and I'm really excited to get somebody who's huge in terms of YouTube. I was trying to think of a better word for it, but huge is how I describe it. And it's really funny because actually I had feedback from someone on my podcast the other day that said, Matt, what I really like about your podcast is it's for small creators, and I feel like it's an attainable situation. And then, of course, the next person I get is a huge YouTuber. But what I'm hoping we get from Jenny is a little bit of realism and also an insight into what it takes to get to that kind of level. But before we do anything else, I should get Jenny to introduce herself. And I know you're the kind of person that needs no introduction, but I know when I've spoken to my audience, like, some of them are like, oh, maybe I've not seen any of Jenny's videos before. So go for it. The stage is yours. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I'm Jenny Hoyos, and I'm known for making anything go viral. This is because I have over 7 million subscribers and have gotten over 2 billion views in the last 2 years. I have helped thousands of creators go viral as well, and I've collaborated with top brands like Nickelodeon, P&G. I promoted the Paris Olympics and many other top brands.
Amazing. A really humble intro, really, because there's so much more. As I was looking on your website today, there's just so much there. When I'd clicked on the work with me bit and all the brands you've worked with, it's absolutely insane. And of course, anyone that's seen any of the shorts will see all of that good stuff as well. So clearly, as I mentioned, my podcast is for small creators, really. And when I asked them, they were kind of like, well, does Jenny remember being a small creator? That was the first question. So can you tell us, like, I saw on your website it said you've been a YouTuber since you was 8. Can you remember those days and how it all started?
Oh, yeah, I remember it very well. And when I started creating, it was simply because I wanted to create. I didn't even anticipate that it would lead to what it led to now. Even as I grew older and I was creating uh, content, because I started when I was 8, even like after 8 years later of making content, I was still making content just for fun. I was genuinely creating because that was my passion. And I somehow blew up. I wasn't trying to blow up, and it somehow happened.
Well, that's a great point, actually, because obviously I'm sure you're in lots of YouTube groups and stuff, as I am. I know a lot of big YouTubers are as well. And we see a lot of the desperation amongst the small creators as they're starting and they've got this like desire to blow up. But it's nice to hear that that's not the case. Like, with that being said, do you remember the time where you kind of got to a point where you thought, okay, actually, this is going to take off now. This is going to change the way I live my life, maybe, or what was that situation like?
Yeah, I mean, you feel that all the time. You would think that all the time, at least. You're like, oh, this one's the one. You press upload. Oh, no, it wasn't the one. But it's funny, I guess, to clarify what I meant when I said blow up, I wanted to get as many views as possible
Yeah.
in these videos, but it wasn't because I was trying to uh, make money or just to be famous. It was just because I wanted my art to be appreciated. So I was really just focusing on the actual art and the person. But I would say I felt that more than ever, like the this is gonna work when I heard about this concept of social hacking and trend jacking, where essentially you'll take something that's already existingly popular or what's going or what's on the news or what creators are blowing up and leveraging that to create content. So when I started doing that, I had a feeling that that was going to work just because you would naturally get more views since that is what YouTube is pushing out.
Yeah, and do you think everyone has to jump on that trend? Like a lot of the people that I work with is are like business owners, that kind of thing. So often they'll say, well, I don't really want to do the trends and the newsjacking kind of stuff. Like, how do you feel about that if you're not in the space that you're in?
Yeah, so if you are more in the educational route, there's your own version of this, which is, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's almost obvious, but honestly, the supply and demand. You want to find the content that is in a high demand but low supply, and that's what you call a blue ocean strategy, which I'm also well known for, since that was something that also helped me blow up when I first started my channel as well, because I was creating financial content for teens to help teens save money, because that's a huge market. There's a lot of teens who work like at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or Starbucks, and they're making just a couple of dollars an hour, and then for then they have to spend it all almost on lunch, and they're trying to just save money. And I was trying to create content towards that specific avatar, and when you know your avatar and it's very specific and they are not being served, those are the type of videos that you need to make.
Nice. My daughter's definitely in that route at the minute. She's working in one of those kind of jobs in a restaurant here. So I guess that leads nicely on to research. When you're talking about avatars and you're talking about the kind of videos that you make, like what's the process that you go through? When I speak to a lot of YouTubers, it's never just that they come up with an idea in their head and that's it. It always revolves around some kind of process. So can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, so for one, it's super important to understand your avatar. It's hard to believe, because when I first started, I thought that this avatar thing was not true at all, but it is, because you can't just have one video and YouTube pushes it out and it blows up, even if it's the best video in the world. YouTube needs to know who to send this video to, and sometimes it can take at least 20 videos or even up to 100 videos to understand who your avatar actually is, because you have to consistently create for that person. So once you understand your avatar, you want to, one method that I did when I first started, I never mentioned this in podcasts, but since you asked me about what it was like when I first started, something I did when I first started, I created a new YouTube account, fresh, and I started watching content from the lens of the avatar and not from me. Because, of course, we have several personality traits, but just focus in on those core ones, those core three that your avatar has, and just watch the content or leave it playing in the background. And then from there, you'll be able to find all the ideas and videos that YouTube is recommending to that avatar.
Yeah. Excellent. That's good to hear, because I call that a research channel with my the members in my
Oh, I
membership. So
love
that's
that.
good. Yeah, love that too. Bit of confirmation from a big YouTuber is always good. And when you're doing that kind of research, has that process changed from when you did it at the start, or like how is it kind of evolved into the kind of content you now? Because one of the things I noticed on your website is Jenny knows exactly how to make any content go viral, and that is a really bold claim for anybody, right, in the YouTube space. But nobody will deny it with you. Like, we absolutely believe that that's true. You only have to look at your recent videos to know that's true. And also, as a side note to that is, like, I asked the question about business. When you look at the brands you've worked with, it's easy for people that are getting started to say, well, that wouldn't work for me because I'm in this niche. But actually, for anyone that's listening to this or watching on YouTube, go to Jenny's brand she's worked with. Like, you can't say that her content is aimed at one audience and then you look at the other brands and think, well, they're not the same audience, but she still understands it. So the question was, like, has that changed during that time? Has it evolved when you're doing your research?
Yeah, so when I began, I used to heavily rely on what other people's outliers were. And
Yeah.
to this day, that's still very important. It's very easy to come up or to make a viral video when it's already an outlier video for someone else. But what I'm trying to focus on more now is human psychology altogether, and thinking about primitive things. And even if someone hasn't created content on it, has it been proven with books? Has it been proven in movies? Has it been proven even in my day-to-day life, just noticing this? For example, recently, because I know my avatar is very young, I realized just the phrase "we have food at home" is super viral. Someone may have not made a video, I didn't even research it. Someone probably didn't make a video, or maybe someone did, but it doesn't matter because that's a quote that everyone has probably heard in their life. Can I go out to eat? No, we have food at home, and creating a whole video around that.
You
But
said it
also,
today, yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also thinking about the things that we all experience as humans. So, and there's so many ideas. Like, we all brush our teeth every day. I mean, at least I would hope. That's a video idea. Let's think about
Yeah.
all the different things we could do with brushing our teeth. Even toothbrushes, that's very versatile. And thinking about how we can attach to things that are versatile, even if we're working with something that is niche.
Okay, so what you're saying is, I love the outliers thing because, again, it's like taking inspiration. A lot of people have this hang up that they can't do something that someone's already done, or that, the market is saturated, all that kind of thing. But actually, again, when I speak to a lot of YouTubers, they're like, well, no, if we know something works, why would we not do the same thing? It's a trend. That's the whole point of a trend. So that's great. And the psychology thing, how do you think that's going to change as the algorithm changes, as AI comes in? Do you think that's more important or less important? What's your kind of bet around that?
I think it's going to become more important than ever because that is how you create relatable moments. It's A lot of people say something is relatable just because it's funny, but real relatability is when something is happening to all of us as humans, and it's going to be tough for AI to be able to match that
Yeah.
because I mean, it's good at machine learning, but it's going to be tough for it to come up with relatable moments. It can find outliers. You can copy and paste the view stats page into AI and it'll give you some ideas. But what I'm talking about as far as looking at your day-to-day life and thinking how you can apply that, I think that's going to be unique and very important in the future.
Nice. It leads on to one of my questions, actually, that I asked my audience, like, what questions would you ask Jenny? And one of them was, when starting a channel, what are the three main metrics that you would keep an eye on? You talked about putting stuff into AI and seeing all that kind of stuff. Like, what are the things that you think people should pay attention to the most?
Yeah, so as a short form content creator, I'm going to focus on that in specific. The number one thing is view versus swipe away, because that tells you how many people viewed your short versus swiped away within the first 2 to 3 seconds or so. And the reason why that's so important is because it not only measures how good your hook was, but it also measures your idea. Because if you have a bad idea, then you can't have a good hook. But also, sometimes you can have a good idea and a bad hook. So I think it's really good at showing that. And if someone doesn't even get hooked from your video, they're not even gonna watch the rest of it. So that's why that is the most important, followed by the retention percentage. So how much someone watched a video, that's super important because that is viewer satisfaction. Honestly, that's probably should be the number one. That should be as high as possible. Your viewers should be watching your videos as long as possible. And even though it sounds like the same thing, I'm gonna have to go with the retention graph. It doesn't matter what information you get with those percentages because it's not applicable. It doesn't tell you what you can do with those percentages. The retention graph is what tells you what to do with that information and what changes you need to make.
So with that information, like, how long do you publish a video? At what period do you think, okay, we need to take a look at this? Is it like the first few hours, first few days? Like, how long do you pay attention before you move on to the next thing?
Yeah, so you get your view versus swipe away basically immediately. So I am keeping an eye on that at all times. Sometimes I'll take down a video, re-edit it, and repost it within
Oh,
the span
really?
of 1 hour. Yeah, I've done that only five
Oh, that's
times.
fascinating. Fascinating.
Two times the video went from being a 10 of 10 to a 1 of 10, simply because I made a change on the hook. Because sometimes I'll have like two ideas of the hook that I want, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go with this one, and then I'm like, oh shoot, this wasn't the good one. So
Yeah.
let me re-upload let me take it down and re-upload the other version. So yeah, but as far as the retention graph, as soon as I get that, but I don't take down the video and repost it by then, simply because by the time that happens, the video basically got exhausted, and when you repost it, it's gonna just go to the same audience, and now they're going to give it even worse metrics.
Yeah, because I've already seen it or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and like, and I suppose, and again, when I spoke to my audience, one of the guys said, "Look, I struggle because it's like we're talking about things at a high level, and even the first time I went to Vid Summit, which was 2018." I remember listening to the way some people were talking about videos with millions of views, and I was thinking, oh, you know, as a small creator, I didn't get to that point. Like, but still, if you are a small creator and publishing short form content like this, is it still important, do you think, in that at that realm to keep an eye on those metrics right at the start? If you're only getting like hundreds of views, thousands of views, should the focus be posting more often and getting your reps in, or paying attention to the metrics? I guess is a better question.
Yeah, the metrics I would say are super important, even if you have a small sample size. But something I will say though is it's also super important, going back to what I was mentioning earlier, is it takes the algorithm time to find the right audience. So
Yeah,
sometimes I've had clients who have had amazing videos, right? And like for example, his first video I think was like one of the best videos I've ever seen, and then you see the view versus swipe weighs like 20% and it has like 10% retention on like a 60-second video, which is like terrible. But it's because it's more than likely hit the wrong audience because he's creating educational content. It may be a hit and entertainment audience, but
yeah,
now that he's posted over 20 videos, the algorithm knows who to send this out to, and now his metrics are slowly increasing, which is interesting because something you notice, and you probably hear, or people probably hear this in these Mr. Beast podcasts, is that whenever you get more views, your metrics dilute. Because it makes sense. As it gets more views, it's going to broader audiences. So, of course, the retention is going to drop because it's broader audiences. But what's really interesting is as a new creator, sometimes it's the opposite, where as you get more views, the metrics actually increase because YouTube is slowly finding your audience.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that is like a good gauge to tell where you are at. If you're noticing your metrics are decreasing as it gets more views versus if they are increasing as it gets more views. If it is increasing as you get more views, that means you're still in the phase where you need to create very specific content for a very specific avatar so YouTube can continue to understand who your audience actually is.
And so when you work with the brands where their audience is a very different audience to you, how do you ensure that what you're putting out there is going to hit the audience that they've got in the right way? Is that what they're trying to do, or are they trying to bring your audience to their brand?
Yeah, it is really interesting. They are trying to bring, although they have an avatar, they're trying to introduce a new avatar
Yeah,
to their brand. So they aren't looking for me to create a video that's going to reach a completely different type of audience. They are trying to like the whole point is to leverage the creator's audience. But it's a very tough approach where you have to first, when that is the case, you have to first share to your viewers why they need this and why this is, or first actually why this is relevant to them before you can share why they need this. Versus if it's a brand that's already relevant to them, you can just get right to the point with why they need it.
yeah, yeah. Got you. Okay, so what's more important, do you think? It's a loaded question. I know what you're going to
Okay,
say,
I'm
but I'm still going
excited.
to ask it. You're the same. What's in more important, the edit or the quality of the video?
When you say quality of the video, you mean like the camera or
The
like the
tech,
pre-production?
yes, the technical quality of the video. What's more important?
Oh, the editing, definitely.
Okay, and that was the loaded question because I knew you'd say that. But still, people like focus on equipment so much, and I'm like, come on, guys. Like a lot of people are still doing it with a mobile phone. Just get over it. It's not. You don't need a fancy equipment. You know.
I use my phone and I use it intentionally because it's it has that relatable quality. Even Mr. Beast, it's interesting because he's filming his Beast games with like $1 million cameras. I believe each camera is $1 million. But then for
Yeah.
his YouTube videos, he films with like a $10,000 camera. So it's like
Yeah.
it's a what 1/100th. I didn't I think that's math, but it's because that's more relatable.
Have you ever seen the Wistia did a documentary and it was called 110 100, and they basically filmed video, the same brief and everything, but one with $1,000, one with $10,000, and one with $100,000,
Oh
and they
my goodness.
showed like the difference in quality and output you could get, and the difference between 10,000 and 100,000 was very little. You'd probably be able to tell. Anyone in production would be able to tell, but the biggest difference was between 1 and 10,000, because obviously got a bit of a team with 10,000, all that kind of jazz. But I do find those kind of things fascinating because they, like you say, using that £1 million camera, I'm sure it was great when Netflix are paying for it, but
Yeah.
it's just not necessarily to get the views, right?
Oh, most definitely. The video itself matters so much more. The video just needs to be entertaining. Doesn't matter if the camera looks great.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are you looking up to at the moment? Like you're a big creator. Like who do you look at and go, you know what, those guys are killing it. I'm really enjoying their content at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, there are a handful of creators that I can mention that I really like what they're doing. Zach King, very impressive. That needs no explanation.
Did you see his presentation at Vid Summit?
Oh yes, I did. He's
I
incredible. He's
I've
super
seen
talented.
two that he's done now, and both of them were just absolutely brilliant. Like to be a good creator like that, but to have that storytelling aspect that he has and that he delivered in that speech was just phenomenal, absolutely brilliant. So yeah, love Zach. Who else have you got? Who else is he like? Oh, that's really
Yeah.
interesting stuff.
I would say Ryan Trahan has incredible depth with
Yeah.
his audience. It's incredible. He has, I believe, 17 million subscribers, and they're loyal fans. How do you have that many loyal fans? That is very impressive.
I think some of your 7+ million are very loyal fans as well, and I think that's a testament to the amount of views you get on the videos. Definitely. What's the best thing you've been involved in as a full-time creator?
Oh, the Paris Olympics. That
Yeah,
was an incredible experience to promote that.
yeah, yeah. When I was looking at your content, I thought I know the answer to that question is going to be the Olympics, but and I suppose like a lot of things are
Yeah.
cool, but it's one of those like bucket list things. Like if you can do that stuff, it must have been amazing. And you get when you're in
Yeah.
the other side of things, you get treated like a superstar as well, which is amazing. But that looked like a lot of fun. Okay, the one thing that I wanted to talk about is just teams. So a lot of the small creators that I've got, they're on their own, or maybe they're outsourcing their thumbnail or their editing and whatever. Like, can you talk about like what's your team look like now?
Yeah, so before I answer that, the first thing I want to say is I got to 1 million subscribers completely by myself without a team, without ever hiring anyone.
Yeah,
So it's very possible. And even so, now I'm trying to stay lean. I'm trying to maximize the amount of output and reach I can get while being efficient with my team members. And because of that, currently I have one freelance ideator who works here and there, but I wouldn't even say it's like a team member, really. I have one video editor I just got a week ago, and
yeah,
my dad helps film the videos. So it's basically me. I think it might be a bad philosophy, but I want to be able to successfully run the channel and company by myself
yeah.
and be able to amplify growth with other people. But at the end of the day, I don't want to have to rely on people to be able to have a running channel.
Yeah, and it's really nice to hear it. And I know like short form content's different because it's less time in theory to create these videos. I'm sure some of them with the pre-production and everything else takes a long time still. But the thing that's really important to me from that answer is just that people understand that they can do it all themselves at the start. Like it doesn't have to be that the only way I can get to that level is with a huge team. And there's the opposites to that. I don't know who it was. There was a guy. I don't know. Was it Darman? There was someone that I saw at Vid Summit who was like, "I've got a team of like 150 people," and I was like, "Oh my god, that must be a complete nightmare to manage, let alone everything else that comes with it." But
Yeah,
no,
at one point
it's
I had a big team. At one point I had nearly 10 people
yeah,
on the team, which is, you think you work less, but you actually work more
yeah,
because now you're like oh shoot, I'm paying this person this each week, so now I have to film at least this many videos so to make it actually worth it. But then also now there's this problem, there's that problem, then you have to do payroll, and then you have to now you have to get insurance for these people. And it's like, oh my goodness, like it's a logistical nightmare. It's more work to have people, and it costs
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, I had the same thing, Jenny. I had a team of 6, 7 people in my office. We had an office that I had to pay for every month, and all of that stuff. And just when they all went, when we closed the business in 2020, I was like, oh, it felt like such a relief to just be on my own and only have to account for myself anymore. So yeah, totally understand that. And now I work with freelancers, so it's not as much of a big issue.
Love that.
Um, what else did I get for you? I'll ask this one first. And this is about young. So one of my people in my membership, Chad, she's got a young son who's 10 years old. And she said, any tips for young entrepreneurs that want to start on YouTube? Because I think probably if you asked 10-year-olds now, YouTube is the top answer to what you want to be. So any tip for somebody like that that's thinking about it?
Yeah, I love that. So I actually, okay, my brain, like, there's so many tips that I have. So the first thing I'm thinking about again is Avatar, and those who are going to watch a 10-year-old are 10 and under. And if we think about those kids, what they want is a friend, someone to give them toy recommendations, someone to live experiences through, someone to even if you have other siblings, watch that experience as well. So I would definitely create content in that realm, making your 10-year-old, I believe, son, right?
Yes. Yeah.
10-year-old son the viewer's best friend, but also making sure that the 10-year-old has fun. I know a family actually uh, of content creators who are all around that age range. There's 5 kids ranging from 3 years old all the way up to 15 who have YouTube channels. And something that's really working for them is having the viewers follow along with their life story in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to like a tournament for this thing or a competition, and having the followers come along as if they're the best friends. It's interesting because when you're younger, you don't have to worry as much about these hacking strategies, rather just like being that friend for that
Yeah,
viewer.
you could just do it for the sake of it, right? There's no pressure on you to really perform or even to get the views or anything like that. You can just literally record, upload it, and let it be. I think
Yeah,
as
because kids
we
want to hang out with them.
yeah, and you can see that if you've ever been to like a Comic Con or anything like that, where there's groups of people that meet up to. Yes, they want to do meet and greets and all that kind of stuff, but they also just want to hang out together because you don't get to do that, especially if you're in remote locations and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Wicked, thank you so much for that. And this is a really broad question. What are the key lessons that she's learnt being a YouTuber? I mean, I don't know if you've got an answer to that, but how can I frame that as a better question? I think what's been the most important thing that you've learned as you've grown the channel? How have you managed to keep your head in the game? And a lot of YouTubers burn out when they're struggling to compete with themselves or often. So what's been the thing that's kept you going and made it really exciting and enjoyable for you?
Yeah, so to avoid burnout, you know, that's a good question. I think this is very interesting because I used to get burned out until I had a change in my mentality. And not all creators will be able to apply this logic, but I will say what worked for me and what I have done in case it helps others. And that is creating content where I genuinely make my life fun, where I like want to do something and I'm documenting it rather than creating a viral idea. So every once in a while, I'll think about things that I genuinely want to do. Since I know that I can make anything go viral, I think about things that I want to do in my personal life, like selfishly, honestly, and then figure out like what balance I can make so that it actually goes viral and resonates with other people.
Yeah.
And
I
that
like that.
definitely helps. Because then now it I don't know, it helps a lot. But also another thing I will say too, I don't know if this is fully the question, but I do want to address this because I noticed this myself. So when I first started creating content, it was purely out of passion, and I was still attending college, and I very much plan to. I graduated now with my degree, but the intention was to work a full-time job. I was trying to get into investment banking. Like I was
Yeah.
not. I didn't know I was going to be a YouTuber. I was creating content, but really like I was trying to do that. And what I noticed was when YouTube started working and I started, making money, I put 100% of my focus there. And weirdly enough, when I did that, somehow when I put 100% of my focus into YouTube, that's when the videos started doing worse. And unironically, that was because my mentality has shifted versus creating for fun to now creating because this is my income source and I need to get views or else no, like what did I just do? So that is definitely a tough thing to balance, which is why I like to every once in a while have a video where it's like purely just for creativity and I don't care how many views it's going to get, just so I
Yeah.
can go into that mindset again where it's like, yes, this is a job, but also I can create out of passion. But also having a business outside of my channel helps a lot too, because then I know even if my channel is not performing, I still have that business as a like cushion.
Yeah. And I like it because we often get told like where your focus goes, where your energy goes, your focus grows. Whatever the saying is, I can't remember
Yes.
the exact thing, right? But you know what I mean. And I think the problem is in that scenario, and you've described it well, is that sometimes that's where burnout exists because you can't, like, there's no time for enjoyment if you're just fully focused on these things and you're so obsessed with the numbers. And you hear it all the time, like people say, get obsessed with it, and it's like, yeah, but do it in a like a safe for your own mentality, mental health. Do it in a safe way for that because you don't want to be getting too obsessed that you can't enjoy the thing as well. You need to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's just a job like anything else. And then, where's the enjoyment in that?
Definitely.
Okay, so, and I've noticed the reason why I contacted you actually is we connected on LinkedIn, which I think was a cheeky connection request via when I saw you at Vid Summit. And I saw that you'd started posting on LinkedIn and I was like, huh, that's interesting. Because you're one of those people where if I look across all the socials, YouTube's obviously your primary platform and that's the thing you've grown on a lot. Like, but you've started to do stuff on the other platforms. So what's made you start to think about the other platforms?
Yes, so YouTube is my primary platform just simply because that's where I started and that's where my growth came from. I started cross posting onto Instagram and TikTok because I wanted to grow my followings there, which allows me to upcharge brands for reposting there since it's not the same followers on those platforms. It's extra reach. It's not the same reach, it's different people. So I can upcharge. But as far as LinkedIn, I have been more active there to help scale the other side of the business, which is consulting. So I have my YouTube channel where I am building my personal brand. And then I
Yeah.
also have consulting where I am helping brands scale their reach. So that's why I started posting on LinkedIn to get more brand deals so I can promote their brand on my channel or to even work with brands and work behind the scenes without anyone even knowing I'm the mastermind behind their social media
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah. And the reason why I emailed you is because you put a post, it was from
Yes.
Justin talking about, and you were saying about how brands you don't repeat stuff with brands and that they should reach out. And then you put your email at the bottom and I was like, well, I'm going to email and ask the question, can you do the podcast? And you emailed me straight back well, presumably when you woke up because we're a bit later here in the UK. But the important thing I want to say to people there is like, you've got to take a shot with people. Like if you don't, you'll always miss. So sending the email out, I didn't expect you to answer, Jenny. I expected someone in your team to answer, and you just replied back and said, yes, mate, of course, let's do it. So
That's a hack. I have team at jennyhoyos.com, but the team is Jenny.
yeah,
Team is
yeah.
Jenny.
Well, we know that now. We know that now. You've told us and you've
Yeah.
admitted it. So
Those who are watching know. Yeah,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that. And I think, again, it goes just back to like, you can do it all yourself. You know, it might feel a bit harder when you're not a full-time creator, when it's a side hustle and you've got a full-time job and all that kind of stuff. But it's worth it in the end because the desire to grow a big team and stuff is not always what it seems.
it is not. I hope to not have more than 5 people on my team ever again.
Yeah. Good. Well, we'll see. We'll see if that ever
We'll see
happens. If
what
you keep that
happens.
to that, yeah. Never say never. You'll get into something, and then you'll end up with a team of like 150 people. I remember that
Yeah.
time I said I only wanted 5 people. So I asked the question about like you looking at the other platforms and you deciding to do different things on the platforms. Have you been in a situation where people have said, Jenny, why are you not doing all of the things at the same time? Like, do you think it made a difference that you focused on YouTube until you got a big audience and then moved? Or do you wish you'd have done TikTok sooner and tried to grow them at the same time? Like, how do you feel about the approach that you've taken so far?
I love that I focused on one platform first because, again, there's different age demographics and audiences on the different platforms. So, especially if you first think about your avatar and think what platform is your avatar using, like for the most part. Sometimes an avatar uses every platform, but what's their primary platform? And that's the one that you're going to focus on because that is your avatar. And once you've nailed that, then I will try and find that avatar in the other platforms. But considering you're probably going to have a smaller following, you might as well focus on where the majority are.
Yeah, and you didn't consider using a repurposing tool or something like that to hit the other platforms?
I thought about it, but honestly, like I want to. Uh, this sounds funny, but I try to limit the amount of services, softwares, or equipment. I try to minimize as much as possible, which is why I mentioned I don't want to have a big team. So no, I don't. I don't have any repurposing tools.
Amazing. All right, Jenny, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I hope that this has been useful for my audience that listen to the podcast. I think we should get some big YouTubers on here as well, even though a majority of us are small creators. Is there anything that you've got for us, Jenny? Anywhere you want the guys to go to reach out to you? The floor is yours.
Yeah, of course. So I would love to work together. You can email team@jennyhoyos.com, or if you would like to learn more information as well, you can check out jennyhoyos.com. There's a ton of different ways that we can collaborate, so I would love to help you out.
Wicked. All right, that's another episode of the YouTube Success Podcast. My name is Matt Hughes, King of Video, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.